Last Friday night, somewhere around 7 o'clock, you handed a teenager $18 for a small piece of paper. And by the time you found your seat, most of that money had already left the building. Not at closing time, not at the end of the month. Before the trailers finished, and here's the strange part, the theater you were sitting in, the one with the sticky floors and the 40-foot screen, that building barely got to keep any of it. Which sounds like it can't be true because you were standing inside their business, handing them money, and somehow, it mostly wasn't for them. So tonight we're going to do something a little sneaky. We're going to follow your $18 out of your hand, through the cash register, and into every single pocket it touches. Who gets rich? Who barely survives? And the one deal signed before you ever showed up that quietly decided all of it. Because once you see where the money goes, you'll finally understand why the popcorn costs $9, and I promise you, it is not the reason you think. Let's start at the register. $18. And look, before anyone runs to the comments, yes, the national average ticket is closer to 12. But if you live in a real city, if it's a Friday night, if the seat leans back even a little bit, you know 18 is being polite. So, your $18 hits the drawer, and the very first thing that happens is a split. The theater doesn't get to keep your ticket money. It has to share it with the people who made the movie, the studio. And this is not a friendly handshake split. This is a contract, negotiated line by line, movie by movie, before the first trailer ever played. Here's roughly how that contract works. On a brand new blockbuster, opening weekend, the movie everyone's texting about, the studio's cut of each ticket can run around 60%, sometimes more. 60% of your $18, close to $11, gets scooped up before the theater even counts it, and it rides off to Los Angeles. But here's where it gets interesting. That split slides. Week 1, the studio takes the lion's share. Week 2, a little less. Week 3, less again. The longer a movie hangs around, the bigger the slice the theater finally gets to keep. And the moment you know that one fact, a bunch of weird little things you've noticed at the movies suddenly make sense. Ever wonder why theaters keep some random movie playing for 6 weeks after everyone stopped talking about it? That's not laziness. That's the sliding scale. An old movie is a cheap movie for the theater. By week 5, they're finally keeping most of the ticket. Ever notice the staff pushing their subscription program like their manager is watching from behind a plant? Same reason. The theater is fighting, every single day, to squeeze a little more out of a ticket that was never really theirs. Okay? So the studio rides off with, let's call it 10 or 11 of your $18 on that opening weekend blockbuster. The theater is left holding maybe 7 or 8. Not nothing, right? $7 times every seat in the room, times 5 showings a day. Except now the building starts eating. This is the part of the money story nobody sees, so let me make it physical. That theater you sat in? Somebody owns that giant box of concrete and they'd like their rent. 20 screens worth of floor space in the middle of a shopping center with a parking lot the size of a farm. Rent on a place like that is a monster that shows up on the first of every month, whether anyone bought a ticket or not. Then the projectors, those aren't home projectors. They're machines that cost as much as a house, and every one of them hums along burning electricity. The air conditioning for 600 people. The cleaning crew scraping your nacho cheese off seat 14F at 1 in the morning. The insurance. The teenager at the register. It all comes out of the theater slice. People in this business actually have a name for that pile of bills. They call it the nut. The house nut. The amount the building has to swallow every single week before anyone earns a dime. And when you stack the theater's little slice of ticket money against the nut, the math gets scary. The ticket, the thing you thought you were buying, is very close to a break-even product. Some weeks on some movies, showing the film loses the building money. Sit with that for a second, because it should feel wrong. The movie theater does not really make money showing movies. So how are they still here? How is there a 20-screen palace with air conditioning and leather recliners in your town if the core product barely pays for itself? You already know the answer. You've been holding the answer. It's warm, it's salty, and it costs $9. Let's follow a different piece of money for a minute. The popcorn money. Because this is where the whole machine flips over and shows you what it really is. That large popcorn in your lap, the corn inside it, the actual kernels, cost the theater somewhere around 50 cents. 50 cents of corn, a squirt of butter-flavored oil, a paper bucket, sold to you for $9. The markup on that bucket can run north of 1,000%. 1,000%. There is no other legal business on your street marking anything up 1,000%. The soda's even more ridiculous. It's mostly fizzy water and syrup. The cup costs more than what's inside it. And here's the kicker. The studio gets none of it. Remember the contract that takes 60% of your ticket? It stops dead at the concession stand. Every dollar you spend on food belongs to the theater. All of it. Now the whole picture snaps into focus. Look at the two piles of money side by side. Ticket pile. $18, more than half rides away to the studio. The rest gets devoured by the nut. Popcorn pile. $9, basically all profit, all staying home. One of America's biggest theater chains reported that in a single recent year, the average visitor spent about $12 on their ticket, and $7.62 on food. And the food money, at around a 75% margin, out-earned the ticket money by a mile. So here's the reframe, and I want you to really let this one land. You think you walked into a movie business that happens to sell snacks? It's the opposite. You walked into a restaurant that shows movies to get you in the door. The screen is not the product. The screen is the world's most expensive open sign. And once you see it that way, you finally understand the $9 popcorn and why it's not the crime you think it is. Because ask yourself, if the theater can't make real money on the ticket, but the building still costs a fortune to run, where else could the money possibly come from? If popcorn were priced like grocery store popcorn, the theater has exactly one other lever to pull. The ticket. Economists have actually studied this exact question. Why is the popcorn expensive instead of the ticket being more expensive? And the answer is beautiful. The expensive popcorn is voluntary. Nobody makes you buy it. The people who really, really want the full experience, the popcorn, the giant soda, the candy, they pay extra, happily. And their extra quietly holds the ticket price down for everyone else. Which means, and this is my favorite sentence in this whole story, the guy in row 12 with the giant tub of popcorn is paying for part of your seat. The snack buyers subsidize the snack skippers. That $9 bucket is the reason your $18 ticket isn't $25. And yes, I know what the top comment is going to be, because it's what my friend said when I told him this. That's why I sneak in my own snacks. And look, I'm not the snack police, but now you know exactly what that move is. You're not beating the system, you're riding in the system, while the popcorn people pedal. Now, we've followed the theater's money, but remember, 10 or 11 of your dollars rode off to the studio. And if you think that money finally reached the movie, oh, buddy, the studio slice walks into a whole second room of open hands. The marketing machine alone, the trailers, the posters, the ads that followed you around the internet for a month. For a big movie, marketing can cost almost as much as making the movie. Then the producers take their cut. The financiers take theirs. The big stars deal might take a percentage right off the top. By the time your $11 finishes shaking every hand in Los Angeles, the people who physically made the thing, the camera crew, the set builders, the effects artists hunched over computers at midnight, they were paid a flat wage out of a budget line long before your Friday night ever happened. Your ticket didn't pay them. Your ticket is paying back the people who bet on them. Oh, and one more pocket your evening filled. One almost nobody thinks about. Those 20 minutes of ads and trivia before the trailers. The theater doesn't run those for fun. Advertisers pay to be on that screen. Because you are a captive audience holding popcorn, and if you bought your ticket on an app, that little convenience fee, on many apps, that wasn't the theater either. That's often a whole separate company taking a bite for the privilege of you not standing in line. Your $18 is feeding businesses you've never even heard of. So let's zoom all the way out and watch your $18 finish its journey. A chunk rides to the studio where it gets carved up by marketing bills and old bets. A chunk gets swallowed whole by the building, the rent, the power, the nut. A thin sliver, maybe, ends up as actual theater profit, and the $9 you spent at the snack counter? That money, not the ticket, is the quiet engine keeping the entire palace alive. There's a name for this pattern, by the way. This trick where one product deliberately earns nothing so a different product can carry the whole business. Economists call it a cross-subsidy. One thing sold cheap, on purpose, funded by its profitable partner. And here's your homework, because this is the fun part. Now that you've seen it once, you are going to start spotting it everywhere. The printer that costs $40, subsidized by ink that costs more than champagne. The free app, subsidized by the ads. The casino buffet, subsidized by the slot machines 10 feet away. And if you've been with this channel a while, you already met the most famous one of all. A certain warehouse store's $1.50 hot dog, losing money on purpose forever, so you keep renewing the membership. Same trick, different costume. Once you know the pattern, nobody can play it on you again. You'll see the invisible price tags hanging off everything. So next Friday, when you're standing at that register, watch it happen. You'll hand over your $18, and this time you'll see it. The split, right there in the air, most of it already gone, riding to Los Angeles before you find your seat. The building fighting for its sliver, and the smell of 50-cent corn at 1,000% markup, drifting through the lobby. Not as a scam, but as the deal that kept your ticket from costing $30. You didn't buy a movie ticket. You bought one seat in a beautiful, struggling restaurant. That happens to have the best open sign ever built. If following the money like this scratched something in your brain, good. That's the whole mission of this channel. Taking the everyday stuff you buy on autopilot and showing you the machine hiding inside it. In plain English, no lecture, no jargon. Every week we pick another price tag and we follow the money. If you want to see where your money goes next, the coffee, the rent check, the tank of gas, subscribe and come along. It genuinely helps more than you know, and it tells me you want more of these. Thanks for spending your evening with me, and I'll see you at the next price tag.